The morning sun shone brightly over Stellar Academy, a massive school floating above the planet Azura. Ships from many worlds docked near the academy, carrying cadets of every shape, color, and size. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had tentacles. Yet today no one cared about alien power or strength. Today they all had one unusual task: cook a meal without any machines. Cadet Leo, a human, sat quietly at the edge of his dormitory room, reading the instructions. Humans were small compared to some of the towering aliens around him, but Leo's eyes sparkled with curiosity. The assignment seemed simple to him. He had learned to cook with his family, on simple stoves and open fires. But for many of these alien cadets, fire was strange, dangerous, and completely unnecessary. Cook a meal without technology? Impossible, hissed Krell, a tall alien with shimmering green scales pacing back and forth. His voice echoed in the hall. Why would anyone choose fire when you can synthesize food in seconds? Leo smiled quietly to himself. He did not need machines. He needed knowledge, patience, and hands willing to work. The academy instructors blew a loud horn. Cadets rushed to the open courtyard carrying baskets, utensils, and ingredients. For some aliens, ingredients were unfamiliar powders or strange liquids that glowed. For humans, it was simple: vegetables, grains, and meat. Your task, announced the head instructor, a wise being named Master Orvix, is to prepare a meal for your class. You may only use primitive tools, no replicators, no energy cookers. You may use fire, water, and your minds. You have 3 hours. A murmur ran through the courtyard. Some aliens groaned. Others looked around in panic. They were used to technology that did everything for them, and now they were asked to work with simple tools. Leo stepped forward calmly. He rolled up his sleeves and surveyed the ground. He noticed a dry patch of earth nearby and a few scattered stones. This will work, he thought. He did not need fancy devices. He needed fire, patience, and a plan. As the other cadets debated what to do, Leo began digging. The stones were heavy for his small hands, but he dug carefully, shaping a circular pit. He placed stones around the edge, making a safe space for fire. Some of the alien cadets stared, their eyes wide. They had never seen a creature work with fire like this. You dig like this? Asked Zira, a small winged alien. Her feathers ruffled in confusion. Why not just use a heat crystal? Leo laughed softly. Because fire has its own rhythm. You must respect it. You must guide it, not control it, some aliens snickered. Humans are so primitive, Krill whispered loudly, but Leo ignored them. He collected dry sticks and small branches, stacking them carefully in the fire pit. Then he used a flint stone to create sparks. A small flame flickered, then grew. Smoke rose into the air, curling toward the sky. Some cadets gasped. Others leaned closer, curious. The first human-made fire in the academy's courtyard in decades. Interesting, muttered one of the instructors, an alien with long silver arms. Let's see how this develops. Leo's classmates began to gather ingredients. He washed vegetables, chopped them with a simple knife, and arranged them neatly in baskets. For meat, he had small cuts from a local farm. Everything looked ordinary, but Leo knew that fire could transform ordinary ingredients into something extraordinary. Meanwhile, Krail and his friends struggled. They tried to synthesize food, but their machines beeped and fizzed. A strange smoke came out, making a sharp smell. The cadets frowned, their meals collapsing into unappetizing lumps. Leo, on the other hand, worked steadily. He added small branches to the fire, adjusting the flames with care. Sparks danced like tiny stars. His hands moved quickly but calmly. He stirred, chopped, and seasoned. He did not rush because fire taught patience. Curious cadets from other classes began to gather around. They had never seen a human cook with fire. Some were frightened, but most were fascinated. A few small aliens even asked questions. How do you control it? Why do you add this? Leo answered each calmly, showing them the small secrets that humans had learned over thousands of years. By the middle of the hour, the fire was strong and steady. The aroma of roasted vegetables filled the air. Even Krell, who had been mocking humans, could not ignore the smell. He tilted his head, sniffing curiously. It smells different, he admitted reluctantly. Leo smiled. That's fire cooking, he said simply. It brings out flavors. It transforms ingredients. You cannot rush it. You cannot trick it. Other instructors nodded quietly. Humans, they realized, had adapted for survival on planets with little technology. and their minds worked in ways no machine could replace. As the first hour ended, Leo began combining ingredients over the fire. Vegetables sizzled, meat browned, the air filled with a warm, comforting smell. Alien cadets whispered to one another. "We never thought it could look real," said Zira. By the second hour, more cadets approached, eager to watch. Leo did not let their attention distract him. He focused on timing, mixing, and tasting. He added small touches like herbs and simple seasonings, making the dishes flavorful but balanced. Even though the other cadets had access to advanced devices, their meals looked strange and unappetizing compared to Leo's work. The human fire cooking method was proving itself. The final hour approached. Leo arranged the food carefully on simple platters. The fire had burned steadily, giving perfect heat for roasting and simmering. He took a step back, wiped sweat from his brow, and smiled. The meal was ready. Aliens who had mocked him before were now silent, curious, and slightly awed. They had never seen patience, skill, and ingenuity combined so simply and effectively. Master Orvix walked over, inspecting the fire pit and the human dishes. "Well done, Leo," he said, his voice deep and approving. "It seems the human approach is unexpectedly effective." Leo shrugged. "It's just how we do things," he said modestly. But inside he felt a small pride. Humans may not have the largest strength, the fastest machines, or the most advanced technology, but they had creativity, persistence, and understanding. And sometimes that was enough to amaze the universe. As the cadets prepared to taste the meals, the courtyard buzzed with excitement. Humans, who once seemed weak and ordinary, were about to teach the Academy a lesson that no replicator, no machine, and no alien technology could replace: the power of knowledge, patience, and heart. The fire glowed, the aroma spread, and the Academy watched as one human prepared to feed not just a class, but an entire generation of cadets with his skill and spirit. The fire crackled and danced in the courtyard, sending sparks into the morning sky. Cadet Leo moved steadily, his hands skilled and calm. The vegetables sizzled as he stirred them over the glowing embers. The meat browned perfectly, releasing a rich, savory aroma that drifted across the Academy. Aliens who had once mocked him stopped in their tracks. They leaned closer, their large eyes widening. Some had never seen food prepared this way. Machines could synthesize meals instantly, but they could not recreate the smell, the warmth, or the care that Leo put into his cooking. "Why is it so different?" whispered Zira, her small wings fluttering nervously. She had never tasted fire-cooked food. Her species usually ate nutrient gels, perfectly balanced but lifeless and bland. Leo smiled. "It's fire," he said simply. "Fire changes things. It gives life to ingredients. It is not just heat, it is magic if you know how to use it." Some cadets from other classes had started to gather around. The strange human who had dug a simple fire pit was now commanding attention. They watched his every movement, curious and cautious. Even the instructors paused, silently observing. Leo stirred the stew gently, tasting it carefully. He added a pinch of salt, a touch of herbs, and stirred again. The flavors blended perfectly. He then arranged vegetables on a platter, letting the colors shine. Reds, yellows, and greens glowed under the sunlight, looking more vibrant than anything the machines had produced. Meanwhile, Krell and his friends struggled. Their machines beeped and whirred, but the meals coming out were uneven, some burned, some undercooked. Smoke and strange odors filled their corners of the courtyard. Cadets shook their heads in disappointment. One small alien approached Leo timidly. Can I taste?" Zira asked. Leo handed her a small piece of roasted vegetable. She bit into it and froze. Her eyes widened. It's delicious," she exclaimed. Her wings flapped with excitement. Other cadets gasped, and soon a line formed to taste the human's cooking. Leo laughed softly, enjoying their reactions. He did not cook to show off, but it felt good to see others appreciate the care and effort he put into his work. He handed out small portions, encouraging cadets to taste and share. "This is amazing," a tall alien with multiple eyes said. "Our machines could never make food like this." "There is life in it," Leo nodded humbly. "It's about balance, timing, and attention. You cannot rush it. You cannot force it. You must work with the ingredients, not against them." The courtyard slowly filled with cadets surrounding the fire pit. They talked among themselves, tasting, laughing, and sharing. Humans had always been seen as fragile and weak by some species, but today, one human was teaching the academy something new. The instructors, who had been quiet observers, finally approached. Master Orcs leaned over, inhaling the aroma. "Cadet Leo," he said, his voice calm but full of approval, "your method is remarkable. You have used nothing but fire and skill to create a meal that feeds the mind as well as the body." Leo smiled. "Thank you, Master. I only followed what humans have done for centuries." The other cadets began to ask questions. "How do you control the fire?" one asked. "How do you know when the meat is ready?" another inquired. Leo explained patiently. "Fire speaks to you. You listen. You learn. Timing comes from practice and care comes from respect. If you treat your ingredients and your fire with respect, the results will follow." Aliens who had once been skeptical began to admire the human approach. They realized that machines, no matter how advanced, could not replace experience, patience, and creativity. By the second hour, the meal was nearly complete. Leo had grilled meat, roasted vegetables, and a thick, flavorful stew simmering in a pot over the fire. The fire itself had been carefully maintained, feeding on dry wood controlled by Leo's steady hands. The flames danced beautifully, casting warm light over the courtyard. Some cadets from other classes dared to try fire themselves, inspired by Leo. They struggled at first, but under his guidance they began to understand the rhythm. Leo smiled as he watched them learn. He realized that teaching was as important as cooking. Sharing knowledge made the meal more meaningful. Finally, the last touches were added. Leo garnished the platters with fresh herbs, making the food look even more appetizing. The cadets around him cheered softly. Humans had shown that simple tools, skill, and heart could achieve what machines could not. The aroma of the meal reached every corner of the academy. Instructors and cadets from other classes came closer, unable to resist. They tasted, and their reactions were the same: surprise, admiration, and delight. The fire-cooked meal was better than any synthesized food they had ever known. Master Orcs clapped his hands. "This is a lesson beyond cooking. You have taught us all something important, Cadet Leo. Skill, patience, and creativity can surpass even the most advanced technology. Humanity's strength lies not in machines but in the mind and heart." Leo felt a swell of pride, not for himself but for all humans. His species had always adapted, survived, and thrived in worlds where tools were scarce. Now in this academy full of technology, he had shown the same ingenuity that had allowed humans to explore and survive across countless planets. The courtyard was filled with laughter and chatter. Cadets shared food, stories, and tips. Humans had once been considered small and weak, but now, their ingenuity and spirit were respected. Even Krell, who had mocked Leo at first, approached slowly. "I underestimated you," Krell admitted, lowering his head. "Your fire, it's more than a tool. It's life," Leo nodded. "It's not the fire itself. It's the understanding of it. You can learn it too if you are patient." The meal continued, and by the end, every cadet in the courtyard had tasted the human's cooking. Everyone agreed. The human had not just fed a class, but united the academy through skill, creativity, and generosity. As the sun began to set, the fire burned down to glowing embers. Leo stood quietly, watching cadets clean up and share stories of the meal. He realized that today, humans had proven something important. Adaptability, patience, and heart are more powerful than any machine. And for the first time in the Academy's history, a simple human meal had taught aliens the true meaning of ingenuity and unity. The courtyard was filled with the warm glow of the fire's remaining embers. Cadet Leo stepped back and looked around. The dishes he had prepared, grilled meat, roasted vegetables, and rich stew, sat neatly on platters, steaming and fragrant. Students from every corner of the academy had gathered, and their eyes reflected curiosity, awe, and excitement. "What is this human doing?" Krell muttered quietly, his green scales glimmering under the fading sunlight. He had tried to imitate Leo's fire earlier but had failed miserably. Machines and replicators were useless now. He had to admit the human skill was extraordinary. Leo began serving the meal, moving carefully between the cadets. He handed small portions to each alien, smiling warmly. "Try this," he said simply. "Taste it slowly. Fire makes the flavors come alive." The first bites caused silence. Then one by one, cadets' faces lit up with surprise and delight. Aliens who had been skeptical at the start now looked at humans with admiration. They had never experienced food like this. Warm, rich, and full of flavor. Machines could not replicate the texture, the aroma, or the subtle balance of taste. Unbelievable, exclaimed Zira, her wings fluttering in excitement. I never imagined food could be like this. It feels alive. Cadets began sharing pieces with each other. They laughed, pointed, and described the flavors, some using words that humans would not even recognize. The courtyard buzzed with energy, curiosity, and happiness. For the first time, students from different worlds were united by something as simple as a human-cooked meal. Master Orvix walked through the crowd, observing quietly. His face, usually calm and unreadable, softened into a smile. This is more than cooking, he said softly to the instructors beside him. This is a lesson in creativity, patience, and generosity. Humanity's strength is in how they think, how they adapt, and how they share. Leo noticed that some cadets were struggling to get their portions. He laughed softly and began handing out larger platters, making sure that no one went hungry. Even the smallest alien, who had been too shy to approach the fire, now received a warm portion. Humans always share, Leo said quietly when Zira asked why he gave food so freely. It's not just about cooking. It's about caring for others. Meals are better when shared. Other aliens nodded slowly, understanding something they had never considered. Machines could make food quickly, but sharing, teaching, and caring, those were uniquely human traits. By mid-afternoon, nearly the entire academy had gathered. Students from distant classes walked over, curious about the human who had cooked a meal that smelled and looked so different. Leo did not stop. He served steadily, making sure everyone had something to eat. This is incredible, said a tall, four-armed cadet. I've tasted synthetic meals for years, but this is real. There's thought behind every bite. Leo smiled, stirring the stew one last time. Every ingredient has a purpose, he explained. Every moment at the fire matters. It's not just food. It's attention, care, and patience. Even Krell approached hesitantly. He picked up a small piece of roasted vegetable and tasted it. His eyes widened and he nodded slowly. I was wrong, he admitted. This human, he's shown us something important. Machines cannot replace skill, thought, or heart. The instructors began taking notes, not on recipes, but on the human approach itself. They had studied many species, but humans, small, adaptable, clever, continued to surprise them. One instructor whispered to another, they can survive anywhere. They can learn anything, and they inspire others without trying. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the fire's glow reflected in the cadets' eyes. The smell of roasted food lingered in the air, making the courtyard feel warm and welcoming. Alien students who had been competitive and boastful now smiled and laughed together. They shared bites of food and stories of their worlds. The human meal had become a bridge between species, showing that even simple acts could unite many. Leo paused for a moment, looking around. He felt pride, but not for himself. He felt pride for humanity. Humans had faced countless challenges across countless worlds, surviving with little technology and often in harsh conditions. Today, he had shown the Academy that human ingenuity, patience, and generosity could shine even among advanced civilizations. An older instructor approached and placed a hand on Leo's shoulder. You have done more than cook, young human. You have taught the Academy to respect and learn from you. That is a rare gift. Leo nodded humbly. I just followed what humans have done for generations, he said softly. We adapt. We care, we share, and sometimes we surprise everyone. The last cadets took their portions and the courtyard began to quiet down. The fire burned low, leaving glowing embers. The meal had been a success. The aliens who had doubted humans now looked at them with respect, some even with admiration. Krell, who had been the loudest critic, finally spoke. Humans, maybe we underestimated you. Your way of thinking, your patience, it's remarkable. Today you have fed more than our stomachs, you have fed our minds. Leo smiled and nodded. Every species has strengths. Humans just have a few extra tricks up their sleeves. As the cadets cleaned up and returned to their dorms, the Academy felt different. Something small but important had changed. Aliens had seen that strength does not always come from power or technology. It can come from creativity, understanding, and a willingness to share. That night, the courtyard was quiet. The fire was gone, but the lessons remained. Cadet Leo lay in his dorm, thinking about the day. Humanity had once again shown that even the smallest being can make a big impact. One simple fire, one simple meal, and the hearts of the Academy had been touched. And somewhere deep in the universe, humans continued to adapt, explore, and inspire. Leo knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy had much to learn from humans, and humans had much to give. The Academy would never forget the day a single human dug a fire pit and fed not just a class, but an entire generation of cadets, showing the universe that human ingenuity, patience, and generosity were truly extraordinary.